We'll start off on the P-39L Airacobra. We're looking down to our left. Put the rudder trim first. Move it to the right, and then back to the left. In front of that is the elevator trim. There's nose up and nose down. In front of that we have aileron trim. You got right and left. Just in front of that we have the fuel selector switch to swap between fuel tanks, and then we have the bomb arm and safe lever. Here's the propeller control. With this you can select a specific RPM by aligning the control with the number along the side. The red knob is your mixture control with 4 positions. Auto lean is fuel economy and cruise. You'll use auto rich in takeoff and combat. Then emergency full rich, which will give you 2 minutes of emergency power. And then idle cutoff, you'll have for engine start and stop. Above that is the throttle. Now looking forward to this box here, we have the instrument lights, then cockpit lighting, an oil dilution switch, and then we have our landing light controls. The motor is what extends and retracts the light, and the lamp turns it on. We've got flap and landing gear controls. There's the flap switch for up and down, the flap position indicator underneath. Then we've got the landing gear switch up and down, and the landing gear position indicator underneath. Now outside there's another feature. We've got some landing gear pop-up indicators. If you can see the yellow, that means that it's an extended position. So they're both above the main gear wells. And there's a further one for the nose wheel, which you can just squeeze over and have a look. You can see it there on the right hand side. Now we'll come back to the main panel. Starting at the top, we've got our guns and cannon switches, the gun sight brightness, gun camera switch, propeller safety switch, an ammeter, the battery master, fuel booster pump. Then we've got the propeller control for auto and manual. That'll adjust the propeller pitch if you want to. Pitot heat. Navigation lights. Then there's the generator control and magnetos. Coming up to the top of the center panel, got the altimeter and feet, magnetic compass underneath that. Over to the right, got a remote heading compass and an attitude indicator. Coming down, got the airspeed indicator in miles per hour, vertical speed indicator in feet per minute, turn and bank indicator, manifold pressure, tachometer, oil temperature with split oil and fuel pressure gauges, your fuel gauge, the clock, your press stone coolant temperature, carburetor temperature, parking brake. Then we'll come down. On the left is the bomb release handle, gearbox pressure gauge, suction gauge, engine primer, and then you've got your Bendix MN28Y radio compass equipment. Over on the right, got a light switch box, propeller de-icer temperature, fuel pressure warning light, your oxygen regulator and gauge. Above that, that's your radio control box. And coming down to our right and the back, we've got the oil cooler shutter control. Pushing it forward will fully open it, and back is fully closed. And you've got your press stone coolant shutter control. Now while the engine's starting, we're going to go and have a look at the pilot's notes for the P-39 Airacobra. Once the engine starts, the door will close automatically, but the windows will remain open. So before I taxi, I'm going to open up the oil and coolant shutters, and then when you're ready to go, tap the toe brakes and that'll release the parking brake and you can taxi. Now the P-39's nose wheel is not controllable, so what will happen is when you add some power, it'll want to shift in one direction. You see there. Now what you're going to do is add some bursts of power with some rudder to keep the airplane moving straight, and then once you have some forward motion, that's when you'll begin to turn using the rudder with differential braking. So we can add a little bit of left brake and come around the corner very easily. To take off from the P-39, we're going to set our rudder trim to 4 grads right, and elevator trim to 3 or 4 grads up, aileron trim to 0, RPM to maximum, mixture will be auto rich, propeller control to auto. We open up the oil cooler and coolant shutters, we'll rotate at 100 miles per hour, and we'll have a cruise climb of 160 miles per hour up to 10,000 feet. As we're coming out of the runway, we're going to reduce our power and start applying the brakes and come to a stop. Don't worry if you end up offset a little bit to one side, that's due to the nose wheel, and you can always correct it once you start rolling. So closing the canopy, we'll wind up the windows here. We'll set our rudder trim to 4 grads right. The elevator trim we'll put to 3 up. Aileron trim is neutral. Propellers are maximum. Mixtures at auto rich. Propeller control is automatic. And our oil cooler and coolant shutters are open. So now we're going to smoothly apply our manifold pressure up to around 45 inches of power. Use rudder and differential brake as needed to get yourself lined up on the runway centerline again. You're going to require plenty of right rudder initially, and the pitch will be neutral. And as we get faster, we'll need less and less rudder. And once you reach 100 miles per hour, just add a little bit of back pressure to raise the nose wheel, and the plane will take off on its own. Once you've got around 50 feet underneath, you can bring the landing gear up. And once you've cleared any obstacles and you're at a safe altitude, you can pitch down and increase your speed to 160 miles per hour, and you can reduce manifold pressure to 37.5 inches and 2600 RPM. Now as we're nearing our pattern altitude, we're going to make our left turn, enter the pattern and go through the landing checklist. So on downwind, we're going to set our manifold pressure to 15 inches and RPM to 2600. This will get your airspeed below 200 miles per hour, at which point you'll extend the landing gear. And you can adjust the oil cooler and coolant shutter as required. By the end of downwind, you'll be below 150 miles per hour, and that's when you start extending the flaps fully. For a powered approach, you're going to make a base to final turn of around 110 miles per hour, but if you're going to do a glide, it would be 130 miles per hour. For this example, we're going to do a powered approach as it's a little bit easier for you. So now on downwind, we'll smoothly bring our power back to 15 inches of manifold pressure, and our RPM is set at 2600. To maintain our temperatures, we can close the oil cooler and coolant shutters as required. To maintain our altitude, we'll start slowing down. Check of position, coming up on the end of downwind, we're below 150 miles per hour, so we can start extending the flaps and then begin our base to final turn. We're going to slow down to about 110 miles per hour, visualizing our aiming point at the runway. Making a nice gradual turn lets you maintain visibility on the runway for as long as possible. If it does get obstructed though, then you can just shift your position to regain it. Adjusting our power as necessary to maintain about 110 miles per hour as we come on final. When you land it, just land it like any other airplane. Just keep the nose up. This will prevent the nose wheel striking the ground at the same time as the mains. On landing, there will be a tendency for the nose wheel to come down straight away. However, you can make it a softer landing. What we do is as we come in, we maintain a little bit of power in the round out and the flare. We hold the nose up, we cut the power, we hold the nose up as long as we can, and the nose will come down nice and soft. Then you can apply brakes as necessary to come to a stop. Then once you're at a stop or at least taxiing speed, you can retract the flaps, open up the oil cooler and coolant shutters, and then taxi to wherever you're going. That completes the familiarization for the P-39 Airacobra. If you liked it, let me know by using the like button and leave a comment. Don't forget to be a subscriber to see more videos.